Well, guys, welcome back to part 2 of personal branding because I want to say that I had quite a boom on the first one of people watching and asking questions,
Okay.
which it went on YouTube and everybody reached out to me on Instagram asking questions about the video. So I appreciate you guys who reached out and asked some questions. And I thought one of the questions that came through was one that I know that you could answer very well. First off, if you guys don't know, this is Gordon Lee. This is my best friend. And he has taught me a lot in the space of building a personal brand over the past couple of years. And I don't think anybody in this world could answer this question better than him because he's the guy who taught me a lot about it. And it's about building relationships because you're so good at building relationships and building real trusting, real friendship relationships with clients and with brands. And I think it goes a lot further than just being a personal brand, you know, because like when in the first video we talked about, you know, building your personal brand and, you know, like what you need to do to be like an influencer or like have influence or be a creator. And as a creative yourself, owning a business, Lee Visuals, which is where we're at right now, you work with so many clients. And I think my first question for you is, you know, how do you establish a good relationship with somebody that you don't have any like initial communication with? Let's just say somebody reached out to you, they want to work with you. Like, what's that initial step? And like, how do you make somebody feel so confident with you that, you know, they're going to come back just off of that initial presentation that you gave them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say getting on a discovery call with them so you get a little bit more personable is always a good first step or next step. Taking it off of, you know, Instagram DMs or off of email and getting that voice interaction, I think is a good way for them to learn more about you, learn more about your personality, and you could kind of pretty much try to gauge their level and meet them at where they're at and try to find like a medium of different things that are relatable between the two of you, like a common denominator, and kind of going off of that and kind of shooting shit before even diving into the business part. And then obviously everybody has different personalities and trying to have good emotional intelligence to play off of that. Some people might have a comedic side and you just kind of, you know, shoot shit like that. Some people might be a little bit more professional and you have to kind of gauge that level as well so you don't go too far off the spectrum. And then maybe for me, if I could relate to someone, let's say on a creative level, on a health and wellness level, or on a family level, I feel like those are my three biggest pillars that I could kind of always fall on. I try to find a common denominator to just kind of ask questions and ask about their life to get to know them a little bit more before even diving into the, you know, logistics of our projects and our, you know, finances and the, you know, actual project details in the business side, and getting to know them more and building that foundation of that relationship like we were talking about on this episode, and having that friendship up front is going to be the most important thing in order to win that project over all my other competitors who are doing what I'm doing. If I could build a strong relationship with them, I'm going to win that client no matter what, even if my quality is subpar, I would say, to be honest.
Interesting. Because like one thing that, and I love the fact that you say you're subpar because this guy's like the 1% of the 1% in the valley. I feel like when somebody, and I know that you're not going to agree with this, but when somebody says working with a creator, working with like a videographer, a photographer, or an agency in the valley, you're always like the top 2 that comes up. And like, how did you build your name to get to that? You know, like, because that's one thing that I really try to do, and that's one thing that you've taught me is stand out amongst the crowd. And it's always the little things that make you stand out. Like, what is your advice for somebody who's, you know, let's say a creator, or let's say somebody who's in your position who wants to, you know, do more of the agency or more of the behind the scenes kind of, or the behind the camera kind of stuff? Like, what's your advice for them for getting into that and like, you know, the little things that they can do?
So offering a phenomenal client experience is one thing I preach all the time. Without a great experience, your clients aren't going to come back. You're not going to be able to retain that client. And my whole business model is retaining clients and having them on retainer and working with them on a monthly partnership. I like to think of it as a partnership rather than a business deal. I'm their content partner and extension of their team in order to learn and grow together. And the number one thing for me I learned, especially coming out of college and running my first business, was where I, you know, failed more or less was I didn't step out of my comfort zone, as cliche as that is. And for me as an introvert growing up, I had to find a way to connect with different people, especially business owners, and anybody in general, and have great conversations with them, without being, you know, someone I'm not. So still staying true to my personality while stepping out of my comfort zone to create those interactions and talk to people, I think was one of the biggest things that made a difference in my current business now, was the relationship building, I'd say, if that answered your question.
No, it did. And so like when you're initially going and talking to somebody and you're asking the questions and you're developing that rapport, because I think that's the biggest thing here is building that rapport with somebody. And let's say it's getting your foot in the door somewhere. What are the signs that you look for, and what are like the, I guess, the triggers that some people would have that you're kind of like, oh, this is going really well, or maybe somebody puts something off, like it's like an off-putting thing, so you're kind of watching that, because that's one thing that you do so well is you match and you mimic and you watch and you observe. And so like, what are some things that like people can take away that they know that a conversation's going well and they know that they're actually providing that value and the person's seeing their value? Like, what are the little keys that somebody can look for in that?
So I have different steps in order to get on a call with me, or for me to invest more of my time into that specific lead or that prospect of a client. So number one is, if they were to reach out to me, they want to work with me, cool. I have them fill out my contact form, fill out my questionnaire. The questionnaire has maybe 10 to 15 questions on it, and it might take them 10 minutes of their time. If they don't take the time to fill that out and won't invest 10 minutes to fill that out, I know they're not a good fit for me. If they're not willing to invest in this project, invest 10 minutes of their time, I'm not going to waste 30 minutes on a call with them soon to find out they have a low budget or we're just not a good fit. So if they do fill out that questionnaire, I'm like, all right, I'll vet them a little bit more. I'll review the questions. And sometimes the answers might not be what I want, but I might still hop on a discovery call if I think they're a warm lead. So I could spend 15 to 30 minutes on that call afterwards. If they're really not a good fit, I still want to end that relationship well. I'll either point them in the direction of a referral, find a different videographer locally that I could help grow their business, and still help this prospect out as well. But if they are a good fit and I want to learn more about this project and we could potentially partner up, I'll go ahead and schedule that discovery call. We hop on a 15 to 30 minute phone call depending on how much is needed to talk about. But the questionnaire takes out like 15 minutes of that discovery call, because they answered all the questions I probably don't need to ask anymore. And I get to do some research about their company prior to that call, so we're all prepared. So afterwards, that's where I kind of invest more of my time into that lead, into that person, and then learn more about them, learn more about their business, and seeing if we're potentially a good fit.
There you go. And one thing that you said in there really that goes kind of my next question is, you talked about the fact that you're not afraid to, put somebody in another direction if they don't work out for you. And the fact that you've built such an amazing community of creatives and creators around the valley and around the world, really, that can really, they might not be able to put the same, put your hand on it and put like your heartbeat that somebody wants, but they can also create such a great product for a client. And you're okay enough and built into your business enough that you're okay with giving it off to somebody else. And I think that's my next question is, how do you build those relationships with like other creators, and how do you like build that trust with other creators where it's like, hey, I'm going to give you work if you give me work. I'm going to scratch your back, you scratch my back, kind of thing. Because like, that's one of the things that you and I think our relationship really banked off of when we first met. It was kind of like, I have connections, you have like the video work, and I can give you work and you would help me out with my shoots. Like how do you find the people that are really in that, and how, like, for the people out there right now who are trying to build it, let's say be a creator or an influencer on this side, and they're like, oh, well, I don't have a videographer, I don't have a photographer. What kind of value can they bring to somebody like you that would in turn be like, oh, well, if you're going to bring this value to me, I will shoot your content, because I think that's one of the biggest things that I always hear is, well, I don't have anybody to shoot it. First of all, you don't need somebody to shoot your content. You can do it yourself for so long and you can get through it. You can get by. I was blessed enough to have a best friend that came in and helped me out in the beginning, which is you. But if you start where do you start with that? Like, what kind of value can somebody add to your business that would make you go, oh, well, I'll shoot your content for you?
Yeah, I feel like that's as black and white as I'd want to make it. It's very subjective. I would say having that friendship foundation first and foremost is crucial. Working with someone is a good person is crucial, rather than someone who might be snaky, trying to take advantage of you. Having that, like as mentioned before, emotional intelligence to know who is trying to use you versus someone who actually trying to help you. Once you find that person or find that relationship, then you just kind of build off of that. It's not a, transactional relationship. If I want to shoot shit for you and shoot your content, I don't expect anything in return, and vice versa. If you do stuff for me, you probably don't expect anything in return. But I get a good gauge of that. I'm like, all right, he's helping me out. I need to help him out. I want to help him out. Not I need to help him out. And then thinking about it long term, not just short term, like, all right, if, I could do a lot for him now, even though, or let's say you're doing a lot for me now, but you can't pay me. I know that in the future, when projects do come in where you are able to pay me, you'll probably be able to pay me, and I'm fine with that. So the long-term friendship, long-term partnership is what is key. I feel like nowadays no one has like a solid group of friends. If anything, one good friend. That's hard to find nowadays. Everybody's out for themselves, out trying to use people, and people get an idea of that. People aren't stupid. So just be a good person, give back as much as you can, give as much value as you can, and in return, it'll come full circle.
I love it. And I think that's one of the things that's like, it means so much to me, is that, the community that we've come together in, and I don't want to say built, like that, I wouldn't say I would say you've built, and I've just been blessed enough to fall into it, is so strong. It's like a circle, like we have the people that were around, the people who came in and fell out. We knew that this just wasn't meant to be. And I think that's like so important, is having those relationships in here that really can, bank off of each other, because everybody's got such great skills and such great gifts. And it's like the little things that you can put into, like, whatever I can do to better your business. Like that's one of the things that I always try to, like, I always end every communication with, I kind of have with anybody. It's like, what can I do for you? Like, what else do you need? Like, how can I help you? And a lot of times it comes off as like, well, there's nothing, like you're not really, it's kind of like a blunt statement. Like, what can I do for you? It's like, no, like when you truly mean it, like, what can I help you with? Like, I feel like you grow so much more. And I know that you do that so well, where you always talk about, like under promising, over delivering, where it's, and you're the epitome of that, where it's, if somebody needs 5 shots, you're giving them 30. If somebody needs a 30-second video, you're giving them 4 videos. And it's like, people don't realize, like, content costs a lot of money. Like, to have the amount of content that goes out and like really builds a brand, it costs a lot of money. And to be the person who understands that over delivering is so key, I think that's huge. And so I want you to talk about over delivering for a second, like what that looks like to you, and maybe giving an example of the kind of work that you do for clients, because I know you do it for everybody. You always over deliver. And so, like, maybe giving an example of somebody, first, some of the people watching, like, what does that look like? Like, and then banking off of that, what has that done in your business, your career, that has led to more success and more business in the end?
Yeah, so over delivering definitely is one of the biggest things I always do in my business. But there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I'd say the wrong way to do it, or I guess a way that would bite you in the ass more or less, would be to, let's say, Scotty, a brand reached out to you and you had to create one 15-second Instagram reel, and you sent over 4. You over-delivered. Great. And they're like, all right, thank you. And then move on to the next project. Now the expectations are he's going to be over-delivering all the time, versus being transparent, letting them know, per the contract, we had a 15-second deliverable, but I went ahead and spent more of my time to create 3 additional assets for you that would have cost XYZ, additional $2,000. But I wanted to create something amazing for you this time around to show you the value that I could bring to the table. So having that communication up front and setting the foundation, letting them know that it came at a price in your time and the cost of the content, and it wasn't free and it shouldn't be expected. Being more clear and transparent is how you over deliver, I guess, properly, personally for me. Because I noticed when I used to over deliver all the time, it became an expectation from the client, like, oh, you're not going to give me this much more. And I feel like you've encountered some of that as well. And then maybe sometimes they expect you to do it for free sometimes, because they know how much you over deliver. So then I don't know. You get used more or less from brands, from clients. And then the over delivering just kind of bites you in the ass.
I feel that. And can you give like an example of, like, and you don't have to give names, you don't have to give like extreme examples, but it's like maybe like a recent project that you over delivered and you didn't think it was going to do anything, but it maybe came back 10x. Like, what does that look like? Because I know that happens constantly. You know, like the more you give, the more you get, realistically, in this world. And like sometimes it won't come back around. That's not true in all senses, but I feel like in this world, when you really perform and you really give everything in the content world, people tend to come back to you really quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll give two scenarios. One, if you're a creator just starting out, let's say if you're a photographer, videographer, go ahead and do a free project. If you don't have any portfolio work to show and you want to create something really cool so you can attract more of those clients, go ahead and extend your time. I'd rather do it for free rather than at a discounted rate, to be honest, and not charge for it, or else they could come back and have all these revisions and it just becomes a shitty relationship. I'd rather have no cost attached to that. So let's say I wanted to work with a skincare med spa company down the street. All right, I'm going to extend something that's valuable, but it won't be too hard of a project for our team to take on. So maybe I'll extend 2 15-second Instagram trendy reels for them. That might take, 30 to 45 minutes. We show up, shoot some cool stuff, and then deliver it. So by me extending that offer, I could showcase the value of that content we're creating, showcase that it could generate more brand awareness on social media, TikTok, Instagram. We could obviously create something very cool, high quality that they personally can't do with their iPhones. And we know the return of it because we've done it for maybe previous clients, or we've seen other agencies do it and now we want to implement it into our business. So in return, off of 45 minutes of my time, plus some editing time, let's say 2 hours max, over delivering those 2 videos, in return, I could get, a retainer client off of them and they could come back for $2,000 a month. So investing that much time into that project, I could get a lot out in return. If anything, let's say another med spa reached out to me a month from now and they're like, oh, can I see some of your work? Now I have a med spa video to showcase in my portfolio. So there's a lot of wins that come out of that scenario. But from a paid client perspective, let's say a client is paying me $5,000 for a video ad campaign for a beverage company. All right, cool. Maybe how can I over deliver on this project to take them and transition them from a one-off project to a monthly retainer partnership? So I'm going to over deliver by adding on additional deliverables, whether it's adding on photos and sending over 20 retouched images. If that wasn't part of the package, that took a little of my time, but it's very, very valuable to them. Or I could send additional video deliverables that are formatted for an amazing video ad in a way that they weren't expecting. So now investing a little bit more of my time into that project, now I could keep them on for $5K a month across the span of 12 months. That's $60K from investing an additional 1 to 2 hours of my time.
Okay. So basically it's doing the little things that are so not necessarily easy for you, but it's the things that don't take a lot of mind power, don't take a lot of, your personal time, but they add so much value in the end is kind of what you're saying. I love it, man. So building like a personal relationship with a client, I think is really key. And like, especially in my kind of work, you're always working with somebody that's behind the scenes. You're always working with, a influencer manager or somebody like that. And I really truly believe that you have to treat that person as a friend more than anything. But you also have to have that business relationship as well. How do you break up that relationship? Because I know it's so important to maintain the business side of things, but I also know that it's very, very important to maintain the personal friendship side of things, where it's, you're checking in on them, you're saying what's up. It's like, it's not a business to business, it's like, how's the family? Because I know we talked about that in the beginning of, having those different pillars that you go through. Like, how do you find that fine line, that fine break where business is business, personal is personal? Where's that line drawn?
Between me and another person, or between what?
Between you and like a client, because like we talked about,
Gotcha.
I think like a client should be a friend, really.
Sure.
Because then you always provide so much more value when there's an actual personal relationship there.
Yeah.
But you need to have that definitive line down the middle of like, okay, this is business, this is like personal, and like being able to decipher, okay, I'm still charging you, but we're friends, and having that kind of break.
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning it's easier because you're working off of that business foundation and you have a less of a built friendship. But as you progress and maybe a year deep, you guys become really, really good friends and you're traveling with each other's families, let's say. I would say it gets a lot more tough because now it gets a lot it becomes a lot more emotional. um the relationship does, because now you're not just thinking about the business, but maybe there's other shit going on in their lives and you want to hook it up because you don't want them to spend a lot, but then things could get a little gray if you go that route as well. So really making sure that you don't get taken advantage of, because that could happen. And really standing your ground, and it comes down to being, it comes down to communication. If you're not communicating with the client and you just get stepped over, that relationship and that friendship is going to get, fucked up more or less. So really standing your ground. If something's on your mind, don't be afraid to say it. And if you're scared to say it in person or in person, then feel free to take it over via text or via email and just kind of let it out that way and vent a little bit. And then maybe you guys could hop on a phone call after you guys align on the same page. But yeah, I would say that's not black and white. It depends per person and per friendship and per relationship. I still have a hard time doing that with a lot of people as well, but making sure that they respect me enough to keep the business relationship going and not try to step over me because of our friendship and vice versa. I think it's very important.
And I think just like wrapping that up into one thing, or one final question about it is like how do you stay in touch, and how do you maintain like a positive relationship with a client or a friend? I guess that's easier with friendship, but how do you maintain like a positive relationship with a client after a project's done? Like, let's say you had a great time on a project and you want to work with them in the future. There's definitely an interest in there, and you guys have had that conversation. But let's say it's 6 months down the line and you haven't talked to them. Like, how do you, like, and it happens in my kind of circle all the time, where it's like I really enjoyed being a part of a brand, but let's say like the campaign ended and there was kind of like, a little bit of like, okay, well, we'll work together in the future. How do you reach back out, and how do you like maintain that connection, maintain that friendship? Like, what's that look like to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like we could always do a better job at that, especially when you're just so busy day to day that you kind of not neglect, but forget about the relationships that you've built from previous clients. Obviously, we could always do a better job at following up to be top of mind for future projects. If anything, just check in on them and see how they're doing. So maybe just setting time aside every month, let's say, top of the month. I'm going to be following up with all my previous projects for the next 2 hours and just sending out a quick email, letting them know I've been thinking about them, hope they're doing well. Or maybe, oh, here's a cool video I just created for someone similar to your niche. I just want to showcase how we could implement this in your business. I would love to see if you guys want to move forward with it. In your experience, I would say, oh, here's a cool fashion video I created for this company. I think we could incorporate this for your shoe company, and add a little twist to it to meet your branding criteria. And just be top of mind, and they could be like, oh, I forgot about Scotty, and thanks for reaching out. This looks amazing. We'll be in touch tomorrow.
I love it. All right, man. Well, I mean, that I didn't want to take too much of your time today. I appreciate you sitting down. But what is like one thing that you think you could give the audience on just how to be a better business person, a better brand builder, a better communicator, like anything wrapped, like I guess everything that we talked about wrapped up today, what would you say that could really take somebody's business, their life to the next level?
I feel like that could be a loaded question. I feel like there's obviously so many things, but the one thing I always fall back on is to continue working hard and to continue moving the needle every single day, make progress towards your long-term goals. And by doing that, I like to set a lot of short-term goals or micro goals daily that I check off in my notes app. I'll write down different goals under my pillars, like I mentioned before, personal, health, and business, and maybe have 5 to-do tasks on that list. And when I check them off every single day, I know that I'm moving the needle towards my long-term goal. When I check it and a quarter of it's checked off, I'm like, oh, I didn't really get too much done today. How can I do better tomorrow to continue moving the needle? Because in our heads, if we don't write it down or type it down, I might think I get a lot done, but I might have just, dicked around all day. Or I might have thought I didn't get a lot done, but if I referenced it, I'm like, oh, I did get a lot done today. So moving the needle in your business every single day towards your goals. If you don't know what your goals are, sit down for a couple hours and really figure out what that is, or else you're going to have no direction in your personal brand or in your business.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, move that needle a little bit every day. I appreciate you sitting down, and we'll have him back on here later. But if you guys want to go and follow Gordon, it's Gordon Lee on Instagram, or at Lee Visuals is his business. Check him out. Awesome photography, awesome videography, and just an awesome person in general. So connect with him over there. If you guys want to follow me, Scotty Scheller on Instagram, and you're already seeing me here. But yeah, until we see you again, appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
You.